Alrighty, in today's video we're going to be touching on the Bauer Thickness Planer. It is a 12.5 inch width by 6 inch height thickness planer. And so far it seems to be in pretty good competition with Wen and a couple other of the more budget line units out there. I myself have yet to actually own one. This will be my first actual thickness planer. I'm very excited for it. I have had a little bit of handlings with one or two other brands, but I am curious to actually see and get hands-on and do a full project 100% through with the product and kind of just touch on that basis, see exactly how it performs, at least to my standards. It should hopefully do really well. I work with almost solely reclaimed material. Everything around me has been reclaimed. There's a very minimal actual purchased brand new wood. There's just so much of it out there, it seems like a complete and utter waste to just always go to Home Depot or Lowe's, and I mean anybody can do that. So I always enjoyed the challenge of working with reclaim or DIY project material or repurposing, upcycling, tree cycling. There's a variety of terms for it, and I'm into all of those just because I enjoy the challenge of it. So in today's video we're going to do an unboxing and see exactly how well this product does, just with some initial setup. I haven't actually owned one, like I said, so we'll see for a novice setting up one, and we're going to go through just firsthand, completely unbiased opinion of it, and hopefully this will help you in your decision on if you're able to get one. I was able to get this one via a coupon, which is what ultimately did the decision in for me, because I've been looking at the Wen. They just so happen to sell out on Amazon. It's now offered at Lowe's and a variety of others. Even Walmart has kind of its own pseudo Amazon that offers it. And this one is pretty much just solely Harbor Freight as far as I know. This one I enjoyed being able to actually see someone's face and pick it up off the shelf myself and walk out of the store with it. So that was a good selling factor. The coupon that I'm talking about for this one actually lowered it to $269. Now normally it's around $379 at max, otherwise they have their normal kind of 20% deal or whatnot that drops it down to $349.99. But when I heard that I could actually get this planer brand new for $269 after tax, it dropped it to, or raised it a little bit to $284.99 or $44, which is phenomenal. Even putting that one in the cart for Lowe's or any of the other ones and doing any different kind of zip code and doing going to the store to pick it up and whatnot, it was still going to run me about $303 to $308 for the Wen brand, and it didn't actually come with a good dust shield and a few other things from what I've read and seen, and I'm curious to see how well this will actually work with my dust collector as well. I have a old Central Machinery 2 horsepower from Harbor Freight, and it's got the big old 4-inch diameter, so I'm curious to see if this adapter or funnel that they say comes with it is in the package, and to see if it actually hooks up to my dust collector as well. So that's going to be kind of one of the features and benefits, hopefully, and it'll just work right out the box. So we'll see if that works as well. So, and hopefully you enjoy the video, and we'll get to the unboxing. Alright. Alright, we got a user manual for the product. Got the turn handle for the top for the adjustment on how the height will be for the planer for what you're planing. Perfect. It looks like this will be the shroud that'll funnel all the chunks over, and here is the adapter I was curious about. Perfect. So it looks like I can bolt this directly on, tighten it on, so that way I can hook directly to the Central Machinery or Harbor Freight dust collector. That's awesome. When I was looking these up, it goes from any ranging of a questioning size that didn't actually get listed on Amazon for around 18 bucks up to around $25 just for an adapter like this. And it had something similar to this kind of adjustment, but you didn't actually get to see what this outside diameter was to know if it would actually work with the dust collector. So I'm really anxious and excited to see how well this works, just being able to kind of bolt on and go. And a couple of the planers I've seen actually didn't even have this part to them. It was very interesting that a couple brands didn't actually offer a dust collection solution. It just had an open back, and a lot of people had to fabricate something on a few of the cheaper brand items I was looking at for a while there. And buying just that little shroud would run you up to around another $50 on top of the initial purchase price. So all in all, just unboxing, I'm already enjoying what I'm seeing for the product. Alright. Let's see. Get some handles here. Not too terrible for weight. Definitely a little bit more on the heavy side. Although my job has me moving around cases of beer and kegs on occasion, so I'm not the best judge on if this is practically heavy or if it's just a little stout. But it definitely feels like it can stand up to a board passing through it, losing a little balance, and it's not going to knock it off the table. Alright. In feed, now feed tables seem alright. You got little rollers on top here. Imagine that's for setting the board on top to run it back through to the other side. Run it through for you. Alright. Always enjoyable to have that new package smell and opening up each of the little pieces of your brand new toy, as it were. We only get older. We never really get rid of that enjoyment of toys and being children at heart. And if we do, we've gotten too boring in life. There's a little bit of like a grippiness, or almost like a rubber. Actually is like a rubber on top. Should be nice. Curious to see how that's going to stand up to sawdust. And it looks like it's just a placement. There's no actual screw or anything on top of it. Unless that can pop apart. And I'm not seeing anything. It is threaded on the top here, so you could probably custom manufacture something to be a little swing arm if you wanted it a little longer or a little bit of a more short setup on here. You could definitely make something very easily. Just cut whatever item you have to have a bolt hole so that it would go through it, and then you could turn something on the lathe. There it is. That's supposed to pop open. There's a little cap on top of there, but it doesn't seem like there's anything to actually screw it on. I imagine that's so it's a little easier to move this if you needed to. Raises nice and slowly. You can actually see there's little ticks on here to show you your adjustment for where it's set up. Up, down, or lower and raise. Got your power cord. Seems to be fastened well. And you got your tool for taking in and out the actual blades, which is nice. And from what I was seeing, the blades, I'll double check on that, are double-sided. I know the replacement blades are sitting right next to the unit, so that's one of the main questions everyone has, thinking that this is a lot like the old central machinery, where you can't get bearings and the blades end up going dull, and then you can't get the replacement blades and the generics don't work for it. So far as I've been able to read, talk to a few different people who have had hands-on with it, the blades are not only just there, and I did see that today when I purchased it, right next to the unit at Harbor Freight. You can buy them online, you can buy them on Amazon. But I also did see there's a couple of the generic blades that can fit in here as well. And the blades do last a while is what I've been told, so we'll see on that one as well. But so far that's good. You can get bearings. I did find a few on eBay and a few of them on Amazon as well. So if any of the bearings run out in this, or these rollers go out, they are replaceable from what I've been able to see. Now granted, down the road when I do need to do that, I'll actually give an update on this. And I'll link that below when that does end up happening, if it does happen, that I end up needing to replace any parts of this. If I have any issues and need to take it back to Harbor Freight and get anything there, I'll let you know on that part as well in the comment section, or just a little update video on it. But yeah, so far, everything looks to be good. No damages. There is some initial oil on each of the rails, which is good. And we'll give her a test run. So you have to go through, it's reading in the manual, you take a little torpedo level and you want to adjust this table coming out here by these bolts that go through, and then just tighten it down with the nut on the bottom. And then that'll just set your height properly, so that way you don't get it snipe on either end of the piece of material going in or out of the unit. So I ran it through the planer quite a few times just to kind of get some initial feels of the unit here. So this is what they started out as. It's one of those stringers you can get from good old Home Depot. And I planed it down to 1-inch thickness. So you can see a pretty good drastic difference there. So first impressions so far as I can tell, the unit is nice and smooth on its initial entry. No snipe, no issue whatsoever. Let's see if it can focus there a bit. There you go. It's really good. There is, on the other side, some mild sniping. But what I can find and figure out on this reason here is I have nothing supporting on the back end of it. And this is a 4-foot length piece of wood, so as I run it through and it gets to that last little teetering point, it applies its own upward pressure. So that's a simple fix if I just have an outfeed table of the same height. Right now I just have it set up on a workmate, one of those good old little Black & Deckers, so it's higher than my tables currently. So this is 32 inches high versus all of my table height is 30 inches. So that height variant is going to cause that dip, and that dip is going to be what's going to cause some mild sniping. So it's nothing I can really worry too much about right now. I'll do a couple more test runs here in just a second and put something on the outfeed table so that way it's the same height as the rest of the table, and then I'll see if I get any of that kind of sniping issue anymore. But I'm more than positive on the idea that it's not an issue. I can visibly see the material's own weight drop down, and that's going to cause any kind of mild thickness issue here. So it's not huge, but there's ever so slightly the most mild amount of snipe just on the one side where you can definitely tell its own weight just caused that. But other than that, this surface I don't feel a need to sand whatsoever. The blades have cut amazingly, and for, like I said, I am a reclaimed DIYer or just a user of any and all material that I can find. So that's a face plane. What I'm curious on to do next is I'm going to go through and try to do just this little bit that's left over and plane that down on both sides. So I'll give that a quick run. So we did run into our first little issue. The unit actually overcut and then stopped right here. Now there's two different issues with this. The material that I'm working with is not by any means or stretch of the imagination level. So I'm trying to plane what is a 2.5 inch thickness and a 3-inch thickness, and that's on me. I needed to double check that. The other issue I am noticing is that more and more, this is a very heavy piece of wood, but I'm not really sure what it was. It's free lumber from Home Depot. It was used to help strap everything else down of my wood on top of my roof rack. So that to be said, it is very heavy, whatever it is, even after taking off that much material off of it. I do know that I'm allergic to oak, and this isn't giving me any issue whatsoever, so I know this isn't oak. It's definitely a softwood of some kind, but it's definitely heavy. If nothing else, it's a core sample out of the dead center of a tree, and it's the most dense part of it. So I'll do another run once or twice through, and we'll see exactly how, if I could replicate the same issue, or if I can just get something that is going to be 3 inches here, 2 inches here. That would probably help. So I ran it through again, going the opposite direction. I increased my height on it to accommodate the 3-inch on one side versus the 2.5 that I had planned on the other side, which you would think I would notice that, but apparently I didn't. So, still having some mild sniping, due in part to the weight. So I do need an outfeed table for sure. I can get it to go away as I did here, just by putting my hand up to the same level and letting it run across the top of it. Then there was zero snipe whatsoever. So I know it's purely on the outfeed table and the weight of the item. As for the quality of the cut, on this side is absolutely beautiful, miraculous. Not one little issue on there at all. It's to such an extent that you can see that too well. But I have no light. Which, looking at this, I have no light on either side of my board. So it is a precise 90 very well for me just setting it through and just letting its own rollers do its own job. That being said, as with any material, their only issue for tear out was due in part to knots. So if you end up going over a knot, that is the only tear out spot on that side. Now I did have tear out at one point, but I didn't pay attention. So there is a chunk missing, but it's just purely because there's a crack running all the way down here and it continues. Can't quite see it on the film, but it goes the whole length. So on further inspection of the material, that's there, and looking at the other stringers, there's all sorts of cracks in these. It's free material, and it's not necessarily the best wood that you can get because you didn't spend any money on it. Not saying you have to spend money on a project, just saying it's free, what do you expect? But even still, the quality of the material now, just running it through there, how perfect and precise all my angles got. And the only reason for any kind of snipe that I'm getting on here is just purely because of its own weight. If I use either a lighter piece of material or I just properly fabricate my outfeed table, which in the summertime I'm planning on doing longer lengths and just running them through the window I have on the one side of the shop. My floor plan in here is 200 square foot and I maximize it to the best of my abilities, but there's only so much that you can do with that. So far, on initial setup, a few little hiccups on material. I'll continue a couple more tests. I'm going to try going through a chunk of pallet wood next. And just for my own personal sanity, just see how well it runs. Now I do know there are cracks in this material, so I'm not going to say that any of that came from the unit just being run through and the blades making the cut. But I'm going to be curious to see, since there's a patina and a stylization that comes with pallet wood, and it's definitely something that a lot of people seek the view of, and to have that aesthetic of it, I just want to make sure that if I needed to, I can plane one side perfectly smooth, so that if I did giant joinery or anything like that, or made any kind of the boxes that I plan on making, I want to make sure it's a nice all smooth surface on the inside that I can stain, and something that I can go through and lacquer and make the inside of it look amazing and the outside of it keep it a rustic appeal. So that's one of the things I want for it. So I want to be able to leave this kind of aesthetic and kind of visually appealing to some people as well as myself, and then have the inside nice and smooth that my OCD would love to have if I could ever really deem it to be something that I could allow myself to have. If you understand that. It's I want something to be perfect, but I also want something to be one of a kind, and that's very hard to keep that constant storm in my brain happy. So we'll see exactly how this goes. Let's give it a shot. That is amazing. I am super excited and stoked, and it is interesting to me. So running just a plank of good old-fashioned pallet wood through, again another unknown wood type, has produced amazingly smooth and just gorgeous looking wood with some definitive character to it with the nail holes. Some mild cracks that are just gone now, but they're just ever so faintly in one or two spots, but the main ones are primarily gone. But I'm able to actually still have the nice look of pallet wood, but I'm going to be able to achieve the inside look of everything that's going to go through for any type of box or any type of chair I want to make, or anything like that that I'd want a smooth surface for either textile feel and for something like a jewelry box, but then I still want to have that rustic look of pallet wood on the outside. This will do the job perfectly, and it'll save me hours and hours of sanding, which is the whole reason I purchased it, was to have properly straight, smooth material that'll save me a bunch of time in sanding, and it just gives a better end result product to be able to give to a customer. So all in all, I am super excited, and I did find it interesting that with the length of this and the weight of it, I have zero snipe. Zero anything on either end. So as far as I can tell, it's purely based on the length and the weight of the prior used material, and even with having some little hairline cracks and whatnot because of its nature of the material that I used, no issues, no tear out, no problem. And it handled it like a champ. I lowered that thing really low to get a nice thin cut. I'm not quite sure exactly how low it can go. I'm not sponsored by anybody, so I don't want to damage the units. I won't go to absolute zero and see if it actually just eats itself up by any means, or just eats into the table. But I do know that it goes down pretty dang thin. Got the material down to less than ½ an inch, and just fantastic results. So super excited, super happy with the purchase so far, and some minor adjustments to how my shop layout is and just how I'll have it set up. I might even build a custom table for it to sit on that I might even have as a rollaway, or roll it in the corner or something down the road, just so all my plane surfaces can be exact. Or I might build a little kit that I can sit on my bench to have as a receiving area for it, and vice versa if it's going out my window for the longer planks of material. And I can always just bring it outside and set up some kind of little setup out there, maybe make some roller types for it or something like that down the road. But it's a viable product that utilizes properly. The adapter fits perfectly to the Harbor Freight dust collection system, and I mounted that up on my workshop here, and that'll be in the of itself its own video. But everything seems to be running perfectly fine and smooth, no issues, no problems. I'm stoked, I'm excited. So hopefully you enjoyed it. It's an initial setup, and my thoughts on it is for the value and for what I've gotten from it, with some minor adjustments, which I'm a tinkerer by nature, so I love to just tinker, and everything can be improved upon. Everything can be changed, modified for the better, in my point of view. So I enjoy the challenge and I enjoy the adjustments, but the motor's great, the blade's great, the cuts are awesome, and any little issues or discrepancies I'm having is just more or less learning in the material and learning and changing the layout, which is basic dynamics. I'm not going to fault the unit whatsoever for that. It performed amazingly. It was really quiet, honestly. I mean, all I had was just earbuds in. I didn't have any super sound canceling anything or another, and the motor actually performed very quietly in comparison to some of the ones I've heard in the past or been around or have used. This one seems to be very quiet, and it's still producing a great quality cut with no issues. Now granted, I'm not slamming this down trying to get a half-inch cut or something ridiculous out of it. That can't really be managed and isn't anything you should ever try to do with a planer in the first place. If you want a precise flat cut, you're asking a lot out of any unit to go that low, unless you're going with some kind of industrial unit that has a lot larger feeding end table and has the ability to have more of a cone shape to accommodate that kind of a cut. Anything like this on the consumer grade level, or a portability capability, or just a bench top of any kind that isn't its own standing box, you're asking a lot out of it. Now granted, some people swear by their DeWalts. I've been around them, I've seen the way they work, I've had a chance to use one once before. It seemed cheap in a lot of areas. This actually feels more stout, and it doesn't wobble as some of the ones that I've used in the past, or I've just even handled around on the job site and stuff. There's certain parts of those DeWalts that flex that I don't like, and this felt pretty nice and stout. Now the Win, so far from what I've seen, I didn't purchase it, I chose this one over it, has granite tops. It's just sheet metal, you can see on here. So on the DeWalts, they'll have something a little bit more sturdy. On this one, it's a bit more of a enthusiast or consumer grade. So it is just sheet metal. It's properly bent and everything, and it is strong and sturdy, but this isn't something that I would feel I could leave in an open position and just feel perfectly fine having any kind of little sledgehammer or something just like hammer it or fall on it, because it'll probably dent it, it'll probably throw it off to where when you try to run boards through it, you're going to get an uneven cut, you're going to get unwanted snipe. It's not going to be anyone's fun day, it's just going to be bad all around. But I'm not the kind of careless person that doesn't care for my tools. I will go through and I'll make sure that this is in the upright position so that way it doesn't get damaged. I want to have it for years to come, if nothing else, pass it down the family essentially. So I will always take care of my product that I use and any of my tools, just because I want them to last. So in my thoughts and opinions of it, it'll stand up to quite a few careless knocks and whacks, but it's not going to be something I'm going to feel completely comfortable just throwing in the back of a truck bed with nothing attached to it and letting it just slam left and right as I go 30 around corners. But I'm not a careless individual that is unsafe driving or with my tools and product. Everything's gonna get strapped, so on and so forth. But anyway, not to carry on too long into that subject, but honest opinion, I am excited and stoked, and I hope to be able to use it at every project that I can, and then I'll give you an update on how well it goes. So thank you very much for watching, and please, if you enjoyed this video or found any of it to be helpful, or anything to give you a second opinion, or just somebody who's looking at it in an unbiased, I've only ever bought Bosch, DeWalt, or Rigid, and I will never go with anything else. I'm not biased in that regard. If it's a good product, it's a good price point. I'm a little bit more on the cheap side of things. I feel I'd rather get varying tools of all sorts of quality, because never is there one brand that is it. Because there is some amazing Porter Cable products, there is some amazing DeWalt products, there's amazing Rigid products, and I'm never going to be biased. I will look a little bit more at price than I'd like to, but I'm not at a point in my life where I can just immediately jump on Festool's bandwagon or Triton or any of those products. They're great products, don't get me wrong. I just don't feel comfortable to go drop that kind of money, even if I could give a review on it or anything like that. At this point in my life, it's not something I feel I want to immediately go and invest that money because I feel I have to. I'd rather get a good product, something that I'm familiar with, something I don't feel I have to guard with my life, that I'll actually use and not feel like I have to store it and keep it away from everything because, oh my god, it cost me $1,200 for a circular saw that's a track saw, or something along those lines, where it's like a chop saw that costs you $11.50 and it doesn't include the blade or any of those kind of things. It's not my type of unit to use. So, but if you enjoy this video at all, if you enjoy my honest opinion and thoughts on the matter, and you'd like to see any more of these types of reviews, or if you'd like to see more about me and my shop and what I'm about, or just if you enjoy the aesthetic and pleasing types of music I use in my videos or anything like that, please feel free to drop a comment below. And if you enjoy this and want to keep seeing this and get updates about it, and you want to support me, I would hope that you would want to subscribe. And if you enjoy it and want to get notifications, be sure and ring the bell, so that way anytime I upload something or anything changes around, or I upload anything on as a post or anything like that to YouTube, that way you would get an immediate notification and be able to follow that and see what I'm up to. I'm going to be trying to get into this and go a little bit more headstrong into 2020 and start cranking out content. So thank you very much for your time. Hopefully you have yourself a good rest of your day, good evening, or good morning to yourself if you're watching this in the morning. And thanks again for watching and subscribing. Please like and subscribe if you enjoyed it. Thank you very much.